This video is all about our red line. So I want to spend some time and talk about our red line. And our red line in poker is our non-showdown winnings. So you'll notice on the screen I have two graphs side by side. One, we have a red line here, which is fairly straight, parallel. It's not really going down that much. And then this one over here slightly just continually and gradually goes down. So I want to talk about our red line or our non-showdown winnings because there's a lot of talk in poker about how your red line should look. If you post your graphs on poker forums and ask people to analyze them, they'll talk about your red line. They'll say, well, your red line doesn't look good. You need to work on your red line. Your red line is dropping at too sharp an angle and you're playing too passive. You need to fight for more pots to get your red line more like a parallel straight line, or even a bit positive like you see here at certain points. Well, I want to talk about that because I think there's a lot of fallacy in the thinking in regards to red line when you talk about red line and you just generalize it. Because talking about your red line at the higher stakes or the mid stakes versus talking about your red line at the micro stakes are two entirely different things. And there's a myth around poker. And the myth is that to be a good, winning, solid, aggressive poker player, you have to have a positive red line, or your red line can't be sloping down like this red line over here. And that's just entirely untrue. It's completely wrong. So there's two different strategies. There's a positive red line strategy, which this is close to. It's not fully positive, but it's close to positive. And there's a negative red line strategy, which you see over here, where it's sloping downwards. And what I've realized and what I've noticed at the micro stakes, either this type of a strategy, our positive or flat red line strategy, and our negative red line strategy, they both work to some extent. And at fishier sites like Bovada, a negative red line strategy is very effective because a lot of our winnings are not going to be coming from bluffing and trying to get people to fold their hands. It's going to be coming from getting people to pay us off when we have made hands, when they're not willing to fold. And so at the micro stakes, a negative redline strategy is a good strategy. And also a negative redline strategy is a good strategy to implement as you're learning the game. Because you're not bluffing as much, and instead you're focusing on getting value with made hands. And you're playing more so in a fit or fold fashion. But as you improve your game, you become more aggressive. You start to throw in semi-bluffs, you start isolation raising people, you start doing squeeze plays, you start going for dead money, you start looking for ways to attack your opponents, you start defending your blinds. When people are stealing against you, you start 3-bet bluffing. You start doing all these different things, and when you do that, that starts to improve your red line. So typically what I like to see poker players and beginning poker players specifically and struggling poker players is I like to see them start with a negative redline strategy. Focus on those fundamentals, focus on learning how to play the game, how to play a solid game, and how to make money by getting people to pay you off when you have a made hand. And then as you improve your game, when you come to a course like this, then you start working on your red line. So you start supplementing your game, you start building it up, and then we add on things, and then your red line's going to change a bit. However, there is a caveat. When you have a red line like this, a flatter red line, and this is a very small sample size. This is only 1,000 hands, and over here, this is only 4,000 hands. I just went into my Poker Tracker 4 database, and I found some sample sizes where here I was probably playing more of a positive red line strategy since it's fairly parallel, and here I was really playing just your stereotypical almost fit or fold tight aggressive type of strategy, negative red line strategy, going for value. I just wanted to put that out there. It's not a huge sample size. Since I play on Bovada and I play at the lower micro stakes 5-0 and 10-0, I employ a lot of this strategy. I employ a lot of the negative red line strategy because it's just brutally effective. And people aren't folding to bluffs. They aren't folding to 3-bet bluffs. They're not folding to double barrel bluffs. They're not folding to any sorts of aggression. So this type of strategy provides a lot of variance in your game. So that's the one thing I want you to understand as well, is that when you start to employ this type of strategy, when you start moving towards a positive red line strategy, you're going to see a lot of short ups and downs and swings in your game in the short term. So in the long run, you should improve your profitability, but in the short term, you're going to see in your graph a lot of ups and downs. But as you take your graph and you expand it out over, 40,000, 50,000 hands, you should see an increase in your win rate. So that's all I really wanted to talk about. Is I wanted to talk about what the red line is, what the myths are behind it, and really what the difference is between these two different strategies, because they're both effective, but I recommend a negative red line strategy for beginners. And then when you come to a course like this and you start to improve your game and you need to learn more about intermediate and advanced poker strategies, you start implementing strategies that are going to take your flat line or take your red line and start to flatten it out a bit. But just understand everything that we talk about in this course, all these different aggressive strategies and tactics that we're going to start implementing into our game, is going to add variability into your game. So you're going to have ups and down swings, and you just have to get used to it. It's part of the game. Your bluffs aren't going to work all the time, but when they do work, they help your red line. But on the flip side, when you're getting people to fold, it's also going to hurt your green line. So that's your showdown winnings. Sorry, not your green line, but your blue line. Your blue line is your showdown winnings. So you're going to see a decrease in this, and you're going to see an increase in this. And this makes a lot of sense if you look at these side by side. With the negative red line strategy, my showdown winnings are well above all my total winnings here. On this one, my total winnings, the green line, is almost perfectly in line with my showdown winnings here, because I'm making less with showdowns, but I'm making more, or I should say losing less, with non-showdowns. So that's really the difference between all these. So just remember, when you go to a poker forum and people start saying, well, you need to employ a positive red line strategy, or your red line is really bad, you need to do this, this, and this, it's just a bunch of crap. Now, if you're out of the micro stakes and you're playing 50 NL, 100 NL, 200 NL, yeah, you need to work on your red line. But at the micro stakes, it's okay to have a negative red line strategy. And even if you start implementing the strategies that I recommend in this course, but you're not doing it at a super high frequency, you're not going to have a flat red line. You're going to have a red line that is somewhere between both of these. And I want to see if I can actually pull in Poker Tracker 4 and show you what that looks like. So let me see if I can get Poker Tracker 4 loaded up while we have this video running, because I want to show you what I mean where it's somewhere in between both of these two. Because when you are implementing more aggressive strategies, it's going to improve your red line, but it doesn't have to be to the point where your red line is going to be 100% flat. And here's an example. Let me slide this up out of the way. So my red line is not a positive red line, but it's not like the previous red line. So you'll notice that it's not hovering down and going at a downward angle like this. It is staying closer to this break-even point, but I don't bluff like crazy. I don't do a lot of these plays like crazy because I play on Bovada and people just don't respect them. But I try to get away with them when I can, and it helps my red line. So that's the red line. Just understand the difference between your red line and your blue line is this is non-showdown winnings, this is showdown winnings. When we start improving our non-showdown winnings, we are at times going to hurt our showdown winnings because we're not going to go to showdown a lot. We're going to try to get people to fold a lot. When we get them to fold, we're going to push this up, and this will be pushed down a bit. But overall, it should help our green line, which is our overall line. And then again, for those of you that were playing a negative red line strategy to begin with coming in this course, don't feel like you were doing something wrong, because you weren't. A negative red line strategy works perfectly fine at the micro stakes. We're just going to work on that. We're going to start bumping it up a bit, hopefully, in this course. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it was informative. If you have any questions, let me know. If not, thanks for watching, and we'll see you at the next video.